My brother laughed in my face, called me a failure in front of our entire family, but he shut up real fast when the waiter walked over and handed me the keys to a yacht, with my name engraved on them. Stick with me while I share my story, and if it touches you, don't forget to support our channel by hitting that subscribe button, dropping a like, and sharing it with the people you care about. My name is Evan Pierce. I'm 28, the quiet one in my family, the one who always stayed in the background while everyone else praised my older brother, Logan. He's 32, loud, confident, and the type of person who can walk into a room and make everyone look at him. People call it charm. I always saw it as arrogance, but no one believed me. To my parents, he could do no wrong. Every mistake he made was brushed off, every bad decision forgiven instantly. But if I slipped up even a little, I'd hear about it for weeks. Growing up, I got used to being compared to him. If he won something, I was expected to clap. If I achieved something, he found a way to laugh at it. Teachers, relatives, neighbors, everyone acted like Logan was the bright star and I was just there. I didn't argue. I didn't fight back. I learned early that no one was going to take my side, so I kept my thoughts to myself. I worked hard, stayed focused, and tried not to let the constant comments destroy my confidence. But the truth is, they did. Every time Logan mocked me, it left a mark. He would joke about my clothes, my hobbies, even the way I talked. Sometimes he did it in private, sometimes in front of a room full of people. He had a way of making others laugh at things that weren't funny, things that actually hurt. And the worst part was my parents always defended him. He's just teasing, they said. Don't be so sensitive, Evan. I heard that sentence so many times it became meaningless. I tried hard to make peace with it. I told myself he would grow up someday, that maybe we'd have a better relationship as adults. But nothing changed. Even after high school, even after I started working and building a life of my own, he kept treating me like I was beneath him. He bragged about everything, his job, his car, his friends, and treated me like someone who wasn't doing anything special with his life. I'm not the type to brag or show off, so he assumed I was still the timid kid he used to push around. He never bothered to ask how I was really doing. He never wondered if I had goals or dreams of my own. He just kept me in the same box he'd put me in years ago. I stayed quiet because I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to turn my life into a competition with him. But that silence made him think he was winning something. And maybe I would have kept staying quiet, if not for that one night at the restaurant, when everything finally changed, and Logan realized I wasn't the person he thought I was anymore. Growing up, it felt like my whole life was built around making Logan look good. He didn't even have to try, people naturally lifted him up. Teachers liked him, relatives spoiled him, and my parents treated every small thing he did like it was something amazing. I was used to standing on the side while they talked about how talented and confident he was. And whenever the conversation shifted to me, it always ended with a comparison that made me feel smaller. Logan had a habit of turning everything about me into a joke. If I got a good grade, he'd ask if the teacher felt sorry for me. If I wore something simple, he'd laugh and call it cheap. Even when I picked my first part-time job, he mocked me like working hard was something embarrassing. He knew exactly how to hit where it hurt, and he did it with a smile, like he expected everyone else to enjoy the show. The worst part was how normal it seemed to everyone around us. My parents didn't just ignore it, they defended him. Every time I tried to express that it bothered me, the answer was the same: he's just joking, don't be sensitive. After hearing that again and again, I stopped saying anything at all. I realized no one was going to listen, so I kept everything inside. It wasn't just one moment that hurt, it was the slow build of all those small things stacked together. Every insult, every laugh at my expense, every time someone chose to believe him instead of seeing how I felt. I started walking on eggshells, making sure not to give him anything new to use against me. Even when I tried to enjoy things I loved, I could hear his voice in the back of my head, waiting to make fun of it. The more I stayed silent, the more he pushed. He enjoyed the reaction he got from others. If someone laughed, he'd go even further, like he needed the attention to feel good about himself. And because my parents never stopped him, he grew bolder. They dismissed my feelings like they didn't matter, as if being the younger brother meant I had to accept the role of the punchline. All of this left marks I didn't fully understand at the time. I didn't want to compete with him, but a part of me wished someone would finally notice that I had worth too. I wanted to be seen for who I was, not just as Logan's quiet shadow. But instead of speaking up, I learned to put my head down and work harder. I focused on what I wanted to build for myself, even if no one believed in me. That silence shaped me. It taught me to push without announcing every step. While Logan bragged about every small achievement, I held mine close like something fragile. I didn't want praise, I just wanted to prove, even if only to myself, that I wasn't the failure he always claimed I was. Ever since I was a kid, I felt something different whenever I was near the water. Boats fascinated me in a way nothing else did. While other kids were busy with video games or sports, I spent my time sketching boat designs, watching repair videos, and visiting the local marina just to look at how everything worked. I didn't have the words for it back then, but what I wanted was simple. I wanted to understand how these machines lived, moved, and survived the ocean. Marine engineering felt like a world where I finally fit. But the moment Logan noticed my interest, he turned it into another target. He didn't ask why I loved it or what it meant to me. He just laughed. "You'll end up fixing rusty boats for pennies," he said more than once, loud enough for everyone to hear. To him, anything that didn't sound shiny or impressive was pathetic. And because he said it with so much confidence, people around us nodded or smiled like he had made a clever joke. It stung, but I tried not to show it. I knew that reacting would only make it worse. As I got older, my passion grew with me. I started learning everything I could. I read manuals, watched restorations online, and even saved up for small tools. By the time I was in my early 20s, I started working late nights on an idea I kept completely to myself. I wanted to restore abandoned or damaged boats and turn them into luxury rentals. It wasn't something big or flashy at first, just a quiet dream I worked on after my regular shifts, hoping it could one day become real. I didn't tell anyone, especially Logan. I didn't want him to ruin it like he ruined everything else that mattered to me. I found a cheap, beat-up boat sitting at a marina lot. Most people saw trash, but I saw potential. Every night after work, I'd go there with a small toolbox and work until my hands hurt. I cleaned it, replaced parts, studied every inch of it. It was slow progress, but it made me feel alive. For the first time, I felt like I had control over something. But like most secrets, mine didn't stay hidden for long. Somehow, Logan found out. I never knew whether he followed me, overheard something, or got information from someone else. All I knew was that he chose the worst moment to reveal it. It happened at a family barbecue. Everyone was there, relatives, neighbors, family, friends. Logan got a drink, stood right in the center of the patio, and said loudly, "Hey everyone, guess what Evan's been doing at night? He's fixing some garbage boat like he's starting a pirate life." People laughed, not because it was funny, but because Logan made it sound ridiculous. He kept going, calling it my little boat fantasy and saying I was wasting my life on junk that should have been thrown away years ago. I stood there frozen. My own family laughed at something that meant everything to me. No one asked if it was true, no one asked how hard I had been working. They just followed Logan's lead, like always. That moment hurt more than anything he had said before. He didn't just mock a hobby, he mocked the one dream I had kept safe. But instead of arguing with him or defending myself, I stayed silent. I walked away before anyone noticed the look on my face. What Logan didn't know was that his attempt to humiliate me didn't stop me. It did the opposite. It pushed me to work even harder, not to prove anything to him, but to prove to myself that my dream wasn't something to laugh at. There came a point where everything inside me felt too heavy to carry anymore. Years of being talked down to, laughed at, and treated like I didn't matter had worn me down to the point where even being in the same house felt suffocating. After the barbecue incident, I knew I couldn't keep pretending things would get better. Nothing was going to change if I stayed. Logan would keep mocking me, my parents would keep defending him, and I would keep shrinking into someone I barely recognized. So I made a decision that scared me more than anything. I packed my car and left. I didn't tell anyone my exact plans. I just said I needed space. I drove across the country to Florida because it was the one place where being near the water felt like home. I needed distance, not just physically but emotionally. I needed a place where no one knew me, where no one would compare me to Logan or treat me like a joke. When I arrived, I didn't have much, just a few bags, a little savings, and a quiet determination to start over. Cutting contact felt strange at first, but it was necessary. I couldn't heal if I kept letting those same voices reach me. I didn't block anyone out of anger, I did it so I could breathe again. Life in Florida wasn't easy. I realized quickly that starting from nothing meant swallowing my pride and taking whatever work I could find. I ended up juggling 3 jobs just to afford rent and food. In the mornings, I cleaned docks at a small marina before the sun came up. During the day, I worked as a marina technician, fixing engines and handling repairs, nothing glamorous, but every hour taught me something valuable. At night, I delivered pizzas, driving through quiet neighborhoods and tired streets until my body ached. Some days, I wondered if I had made a mistake. I would come home so exhausted that even thinking felt like work. But there was something inside me that kept me going. For the first time in my life, I was building something without anyone judging me or telling me who I should be. After months of saving every spare dollar, I finally found a boat I could afford. It was old, beat up, and barely floating, but I saw what it could become. It reminded me of myself, worn down, overlooked, but still full of possibility. I bought it with all the money I had and promised myself I would bring it back to life. Restoring it became my routine. After finishing my jobs, I'd head straight to the marina with a flashlight, tools, and a stubborn kind of hope. I replaced parts, scrubbed rust, sanded wood, fixed wiring, and rebuilt the engine piece by piece. I didn't have help. I didn't have guidance. But the boat slowly transformed under my hands, and with it, so did I. Every improvement felt like proof that walking away from my old life had been the right choice. I didn't need approval. I didn't need attention. I just needed the chance to grow on my own terms. And that old damaged boat became the first real sign that my life was finally heading somewhere different. When I finally finished restoring that old boat, I didn't expect much from it. I just wanted to see if all those nights of work had actually paid off. I listed it quietly for rental at the marina, not thinking anyone special would notice. Most people walked right past it without a second glance. But one afternoon, a retired couple named Charles and Marlene Hope stopped to look. They weren't loud or flashy. They were warm, curious, and genuinely interested in the story behind the boat. They asked who restored it, and when I told them I did everything myself, they looked surprised in a good way. They rented it for a weekend trip, and when they returned, they couldn't stop talking about how beautiful the interior was, how smooth the engine ran, or how carefully the details were done. Their excitement felt unreal to me. I had been used to criticism for so long that praise almost felt foreign. A few days later, Charles called and asked if I would meet him and his wife for lunch. I didn't know what to expect, but I went anyway. During the meal, they told me something that changed everything. They said the craftsmanship reminded them of high-end boats they used to own and that I had a gift most people spend years trying to learn. Then Charles said something I'll never forget: "You shouldn't be doing this alone. You need people who believe in you." They introduced me to several friends who were involved in boating, rentals, and private investments. At first, I felt completely out of place. These were people who lived in a world I had never stepped into. But when they saw pictures of my work and inspected the boat themselves, their reactions were just like the Hopes. They weren't just impressed, they wanted to help me grow. Things started moving faster than I could process. I was offered small investments, enough to buy another damaged boat. Then another. Soon, restoring boats wasn't just something I did on tired nights. It became my full-time work. I focused on creating quality, not flash. I stayed patient, detailed, and careful with every project. Little by little, my business grew from one restored boat to several. I began working on larger vessels, even small yachts, turning them into high-end rentals that people actually waited in line to book. The marina gave me more space, and I hired a few workers to help with sanding, cleaning, and basic repairs. I still handled the main work myself because I wanted each boat to feel personal. Success came slowly, but it came steadily. I didn't start dressing differently or talking differently. I didn't brag or show off. I kept my life simple because I knew what it felt like to have people doubt me. I didn't want to become anything like Logan. And even as things grew, I told no one back home. Not because I wanted to hide out of spite, but because I finally had peace. I didn't want old voices creeping back in, telling me what I could or couldn't be. My family assumed I was still the quiet one struggling somewhere. They had no idea that the life they used to laugh at had turned into something real, something successful. I wanted to reveal it on my own terms, and I wanted that moment to be mine, not theirs. Several years passed before I heard anything meaningful from my family. Our conversations had faded into short messages or holiday greetings, nothing more. I had built a new rhythm in Florida and didn't feel the need to reconnect, but then one afternoon I received a long message from Logan. He said the family was hosting a Pierce family celebration dinner at an expensive waterfront restaurant and wanted me to come. He made it sound like a big event, something important. I wasn't sure why he suddenly cared, but a part of me hoped maybe things were finally different. I hesitated for days. I remembered every old wound, every insult, every moment that pushed me away. But something inside me whispered that maybe facing them now, after everything I had accomplished, might give me the closure I never got. So I agreed. I didn't mention my business or anything I was doing. I just said I would be there. When I walked into the restaurant, I could tell right away that nothing about the setting was casual. The place had tall glass windows, soft lighting, and a long view of the harbor. My family was seated at a big table near the water, laughing loudly like they owned the place. Logan stood up the moment he saw me, not out of happiness, but out of the need to make a show. He clapped me on the back like we were best friends and immediately started talking about himself. Within minutes, he was listing everything he had been doing. New promotions at work. A recent bonus. A new car he bought. Vacations he took. The expensive watch on his wrist. Everyone at the table reacted exactly like they always had, nods, impressed smiles, little comments about how successful he was. I sat quietly, letting him talk, wondering if he even realized how predictable it all felt. At first, I tried to keep the conversation polite. But Logan didn't take long to slip back into the tone I knew too well. He leaned toward me with a smile that wasn't friendly at all. "So, Evan," he said loudly enough for the whole table to hear, "what have you been doing with your life? Are you still hopping from job to job? Or did you finally grow up and pick something real?" His words hit harder than he probably understood, not because they hurt like before, but because they reminded me how little had changed. He asked about money in that fake innocent tone he used whenever he wanted to embarrass someone. "Are you doing okay? Need help or anything?" And then he added, "You always did struggle with stability. Hopefully you've got something steady now." He didn't say it with concern. He said it so others would look at me like I was still that lost kid he used to mock. People at the table shifted uncomfortably, but no one stopped him. My parents stayed quiet, acting like they didn't hear how condescending he was being. It was like stepping back into the past, same roles, same behavior, same imbalance. But this time I wasn't the same. I answered calmly, without bragging or explaining too much. I didn't need validation from anyone there. Still, Logan kept pushing, trying to get a reaction. It was clear he expected me to show up struggling, maybe even embarrassed. He wanted to shine by dimming me, just like he always did. What he didn't know was that the night wasn't going to end the way he expected. The moment that would silence him was already on its way to our table, carried by someone he wasn't prepared for, a waiter holding a polished wooden box with my name on it. Logan didn't like the fact that I wasn't giving him the reaction he wanted. The calmer I stayed, the louder he became. He kept pushing for details about my work, asking the same questions in different ways, trying to trap me into admitting something embarrassing. When I stayed vague and polite, he smirked and leaned back like he had won some invisible game. Then he raised his voice so the tables around us could hear. "Who knows," he said with that familiar mocking grin, "maybe Evan's washing dishes in the kitchen right now. Wouldn't that be something?" A few people at our table let out these uncomfortable little laughs, the kind that weren't real but came from not knowing what else to do. My mom looked down at her napkin. My dad pretended to check a text he didn't actually get. No one defended me. No one told him to stop. It was the same silence I had grown up with, the same excuse they always had, let Logan be Logan. I sat there, letting his words pass over me like cold wind. It didn't hurt the way it used to, but it still pressed on something deep inside me. I had hoped, even if just a little, that time might have softened him. That maybe age and life would have taught him some humility. But sitting across from him now, I realized he hadn't changed at all. He was still the same man who needed to put me down to feel tall. He kept going, tapping his expensive watch on the table like he needed everyone to notice it. "I mean, look at my life," he said, shrugging like he was being humble while clearly doing the opposite. "I've got the kind of job people dream about. A condo on the water. I travel, I enjoy myself. That's what happens when you work hard." Then he gave me this fake sympathetic smile. "But hey, Evan. I'm sure you'll figure things out eventually. Maybe." My aunt asked him about his latest vacation, and he jumped at the chance to brag more. He talked about private tours, boat parties, luxury hotels, and all the things he thought made his life impressive. Then he looked right at me and said, "Not that you'd know anything about that. But maybe someday you'll get to experience a little luxury." I didn't respond. I didn't roll my eyes or correct him. I just sat quietly, letting him talk himself in circles. Every word showed how little he knew about me now. He still thought I was the same person he used to push around. He thought I was struggling, thought I was barely getting by, thought my silence meant weakness. He had no idea what my life had become or what I had built on my own. As he kept talking, the waiter approached our table. Logan barely noticed, too busy bragging about his new car. I glanced up and saw the waiter carrying a polished wooden box. He walked past the other guests and stopped right beside me. I didn't know yet that everything was about to shift. I just knew this moment wasn't going to belong to Logan anymore. Logan had just finished his little speech, smirking as if he had already won. "Some of us are winners, Evan. Some of us are not," he said, glancing around the table for approval. I stayed quiet, keeping my face calm, letting the words slide off me like I had done so many times before. I expected the usual uncomfortable silence from the family, the faint chuckles that followed his attempts at humor. But this time, something different happened. A waiter appeared at the edge of the table, carrying a small, polished wooden box. He walked straight toward me, standing quietly in front of my plate. For a moment, I didn't move, unsure if I had imagined it. The family turned to look, curious, whispering to each other. Logan's smirk faltered a little, sensing that something was off. The waiter opened the box carefully, revealing a set of shiny yacht keys. On the keys was a small metal tag, engraved with words that made my heart skip a beat. "Pierce Marine Luxury Line, owner, Evan Pierce." The entire table went silent. Even Logan froze mid-smile, his eyes widening as he tried to process what he was seeing. He had always assumed I was struggling, living quietly, or maybe still chasing meaningless dreams. He had no idea the life I had built in Florida, the work I had put in, or the success I had quietly earned. The waiter then announced, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Sir, your new yacht is ready whenever you'd like to take your family to see it." His words were simple, but they carried weight. Everyone at the table stared. Faces went pale, whispers spread, and the confident atmosphere Logan had created moments ago evaporated instantly. I reached out and took the keys calmly, my hand steady. I didn't need to gloat or explain anything. The expression on Logan's face said it all. Shock, disbelief, a mix of anger and embarrassment. The same man who had mocked me for years, who had publicly humiliated me countless times, was now speechless. The power dynamic had shifted entirely, and he realized it before anyone else at the table did. The family looked between the keys in my hands and Logan, unable to hide their surprise. My parents' mouths opened slightly, unsure what to say. Aunts, uncles, and cousins stared, finally seeing a side of me they had never witnessed. I didn't need to announce my accomplishments, didn't need to explain my hours of hard work. The keys and the engraving said everything for me. Logan's pale face contrasted sharply with his earlier arrogance. For once, he had nothing clever to say, no joke to throw at me. He couldn't laugh, couldn't belittle, and couldn't act superior. The entire table realized that the quiet, hard-working younger brother they had overlooked had built something extraordinary. And right there, in that moment, I finally felt the satisfaction of silent revenge, not by shouting or bragging, but simply by letting my work speak for itself. The keys were mine. The yacht was mine. And Logan had no choice but to watch. I took a deep breath, holding the keys in my hand, and looked at the table. I didn't need to yell or throw insults back. I just spoke calmly, letting the truth come out. I own a fleet of restored yachts now, I said, my voice steady. I run a marina business that has grown steadily over the past few years. Every boat you see on the water that's part of Pierce Marine Luxury Line? I built or restored it myself. The reaction around the table was immediate. Eyes widened. Mouths opened. People leaned forward, trying to process what I had just said. My parents were speechless, unable to hide their surprise. Even some distant relatives who had always seen me as the quiet one stared at me like they were seeing me for the first time. Logan's face went pale. His confident posture faltered, his smirk vanished. I could see the disbelief battling with something deeper, embarrassment, envy, and panic. He had spent years mocking me, laughing at my passion for boats, calling it a silly hobby, telling the family I would never amount to anything. And now, here I was, standing calmly in front of everyone, proving that the very thing he had mocked had turned into a successful business. He opened his mouth, probably to say something, but nothing came out. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. I didn't brag about profits or numbers. I simply stated the facts. The quiet confidence in my voice seemed louder than any words Logan could have thrown at me. It was enough. The family understood that I had worked hard in silence, building something real while he relied on charm, luck, and constant approval from everyone around him. I realized in that moment what had driven Logan all these years. He didn't insult me because he was clever or because he cared about my path. He insulted me out of insecurity. He mocked me out of envy, fearing someone else could succeed at something he had dismissed as silly. Every put-down, every laugh, every comment had been a way for him to feel taller, stronger, and superior. But in that moment, the illusion shattered. The more I spoke, the smaller Logan seemed. The aura of confidence he had cultivated for years dissolved, leaving only the man who needed constant validation to feel important. He glanced around the table, trying to read reactions, trying to find support from people who had always looked up to him. But there was none. Everyone was finally seeing me clearly, the same brother he had ridiculed, the one he had underestimated, the one who had quietly built something extraordinary. I didn't feel the need to rub it in. I just let the reality sink in. Logan's ego had cracked, and I didn't have to do anything more. I had already achieved the ultimate revenge, not by hurting him, not by humiliating him, but by quietly becoming someone he could no longer dismiss. The success I had built, the life I had created, spoke louder than any words, and in that silence, I finally felt the satisfaction of proving myself. For the first time, I realized that winning wasn't about showing off, it was about being true to myself and letting my work do the talking. Logan needed validation from others, I didn't. After the initial shock, I calmly looked around the table and said, "If anyone wants to see the yacht, I'd be happy to give a tour." I didn't direct the invitation to Logan. He had already said everything he wanted to say and had no place in this moment. Surprisingly, the rest of the family accepted immediately. They followed me outside, curiosity and awe written across their faces. As we walked toward the dock, I could see their expressions changing with every step. The yacht wasn't just big, it was immaculate. Every detail reflected care, precision, and dedication. I explained some of the work I had done, showing them how I restored certain sections and upgraded others. I spoke simply, without arrogance, letting the yacht itself demonstrate the effort behind it. They were genuinely impressed. My parents looked at me in a way they never had before, their previous judgments replaced with recognition. Aunts, uncles, cousins, they asked questions, curious about how I had managed to accomplish all this. I answered honestly, without exaggeration. I didn't need to make them feel guilty, I just showed them what I had built with my own hands. Meanwhile, Logan stayed behind, his face a mixture of disbelief and frustration. At first, I thought he might try to follow us or explain himself, but instead, he stormed out of the restaurant, slamming the door on the way. His arrogance, his mocking, and his years of putting me down couldn't withstand the reality in front of him. For the first time, he had no words, no clever retort, no charm to hide behind. He had lost, and he knew it. I didn't celebrate his defeat. I didn't taunt him. My revenge was quiet, not loud or cruel. It wasn't about proving him wrong in a flashy way. It was about living the life he had always told me I couldn't achieve. Every step I had taken, every hour I had spent working nights and weekends, every tiny victory along the way had led to this moment. The yacht, the business, and my confidence were all living proof. As I watched my family explore the yacht, I felt a calm sense of satisfaction. I didn't need applause or approval. I realized that my real victory wasn't becoming rich or successful, it was in the person I had become. I had healed from years of ridicule, grown stronger through every challenge, and finally stopped seeking validation from the family that had never understood me. Seeing Logan leave, defeated and embarrassed, was almost secondary. My true success was internal, the quiet confidence, the independence, and the knowledge that I no longer needed anyone else's approval to feel whole. My achievements had become the ultimate revenge, silent, undeniable, and more powerful than any argument or insult could ever be. I stood on the deck, looking out at the water, and felt something I had never felt as a child: peace. I had built my life my way, and no one could take that away from me. Not Logan, not anyone else. And in that quiet victory, I finally understood what it truly meant to win.